Good morning and welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. And as we gather in our sanctuary together this morning, here in person or online in our wider sanctuary spread across the internet, I invite you to take a moment and think about how you got here today. Think about the roads you might have traveled, the paths you might have wandered. Who constructed them, how they came into being? Did you cross any bridges? Did you traverse any distances? Were you hurried or leisurely? Do you carry with you a lightness of spirit or a heaviness and weariness that you are hoping to find companionship for here? However it is that you came to be here with us this morning, however it is that you came into this loving community of seekers, whether it is for the first time or the 400th time, you are welcome here. Here at the Unitarian Society, where we are nurturers of wonder, instigators of action, people trying to live with integrity in a complex world. Welcome. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton, and I am delighted to be here with you this morning, still greeting so many of you after I come back from my sabbatical this summer. I'm here with Justine Sutton, our worship associate this morning, Matthew Grissett, our music director. We have Heather Levin on the piano. We have John and Alfonso up in the balcony with our folks online, and a whole host of people who make this Sunday and every Sunday possible. So thank you to everyone who keeps this place going season after season. And it is the start of a new season, the autumnal equinox, as we turn towards the fall. And there are all kinds of things stirring here at the Unitarian Society this fall that we would like to invite you to connect to. You can read more about them in your order of service or your Friday email, which I know you look forward to all week long until it arrives in your inbox full of ways that you can show up here for each other, laugh together, support one another. So I encourage you to take a look at what's going on and find your place where you can connect in this larger community. There are a couple of things I'd like to invite you to. We do have a newcomer orientation on the second Sunday of every month. So if you're new here and want to find out more about what it means to be a member, you can stop by our front office on the second Sunday of the month. And we have a fabulous annual event coming up. I'd like to invite Donis to come forward with an invitation for you. Donis?
I have a question for you. So nice to see all these faces here, many of which I know. What's happening on October 19th? Surf and safari, party, food. Come. You can't be here, you're going to be out of town? We have bidders for you. Don't settle for leftovers. I have a bidder because I'm very busy, so we have bidders for you. Don't settle for leftovers. See me or see somebody at the table. Waffling about whether you'll come or not, we need you. It's our community. It is where the fun happens. On October 19th, you can weave what's going to happen for the next year. Bring your calendar for sure to that party. Invite your neighbors because they might be bidders. They might spin the wheel. $10, you'll never know what you get. It'll be something for the $10, believe me. Been working on that. But what's happening now? We are dreaming up things. Dreaming up things. Do you need help with dreaming up things? Can you devote 3 hours to being in Star King with a partner to let parents have a night out? Do you have a passenger van? We have excursions. Do you have excursions? Have ideas for them? Do you have a big screen TV? We need it for chick flick night. Or maybe we could do edgy movies. Do you have a favorite meal that you like to cook? Thai, vegan, whatever? We have venues for you. We have partners for you. Can you reserve a campsite? Campouts are always popular. Can you pet sit? For sure that will sell. Can you house sit? Can you deliver a meal? That is, make a meal and deliver it to somebody. We call that Meals on Wheels. Do you know anybody that works at JPL? Let me know, please. We're going to be out in the garden at the table. We have more ideas than we can possibly deal with. We want to spin you and ideas together. We want to help you. And yes, donations. Time for donations. Because this is the honey that makes the social connections in this congregation. Thank you.
Yes, I do think everyone who puts the auction together every year deserves all the applause we can give them. It's such, yes. It is a labor of love and generosity that makes it possible, and it bears fruits all year long. I invite you now to take a breath, to center yourself wherever you are. Perhaps hold your hands open in your lap or put your feet on the floor. Feel your back against the pew or the chair or couch, wherever you are. Take a breath and bring yourself fully here to this moment, this gathered community, and our time together as we ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
Good morning. Our chalice lighting words today. In these wild, historic, and uncertain times, we gather to remember who we are, who we belong to, and what we are called to do. As we light this chalice, we kindle the spirit of the great turning, the movement for justice alive in this nation today. May we feel it in our bones, and in the stillness of this hour, may we sense it calling our name.
You have another candle to kindle this morning. It is a flame that we have been kindling all too often this summer. And this morning, we light our candle of memory for Mary Ann Jordan. Mary Ann Jordan has been a member of this congregation since 1981. And although in the recent year, her memory has been going, her presence here was a bright joy every single time I saw her on Sunday or at every other congregational event. She is here in the very fabric of this community. And so we light our candle this morning for Mary Ann, holding her and her family close in our hearts, and remembering all of those who have made their home here with us for a time, and on whose shoulders we rest. Journey, Mary Ann. Every Sunday, as we gather, we come in carrying with us all of the news of the week and the world, and we take a moment intentionally every Sunday to remember that amidst all of the things that get us down, there are also things that lift us up. We call that our one good thing. Invite you to pay attention each week and collect your good things and share them with each other online, in the chat, or at coffee hour, in person or online. And we here who help lead worship on Sunday, we collect our good things too. And sometimes these are big, and sometimes these are small. And the good thing that I want to add out into our community this morning is actually just one of those stories that I came across that just made my heart grow and brought a smile to my face. And that is because after going missing in Yellowstone National Park, which is a place that I visited this summer, a couple from California had been camping with their cat. And the cat got out, and they couldn't find it. For days they searched, drove home brokenhearted. 2 months later, the cat showed up in California and was returned and reunited with their family when a veterinary office in Sacramento found it. And those little moments of reunion and unexpected joy after loss just made my heart swell. And I wanted to share that feeling with you all this morning. That is the good thing that I add into our mix. Let us now take a moment to greet one another. Every now and then I invite you, before we sing our next song, to rise and turn to someone maybe you haven't met before, someone you haven't seen in a long time. Very, very briefly, just say hello, and then we will regather for singing.
As soon as you said Yellowstone, I was like, and I thought the cat's name was Rainbow, R-E-A-U.
All right, everyone, if you're standing, you can stay standing. If you've seated, I'm going to ask you to rise in body or spirit. If you'd prefer to stay seated, that's always fine. But we're going to sing Love Knocks and Waits for Us to Hear, number 1029 in the teal hymnal, if you want to see the musical notes, or you can follow along with the words.
Love knocks and waits for us to hear, to open and invite. Love longs to quiet every fear and seeks to set things right. Love offers life in spite of foes who threaten and condemn. Embracing enemies, love goes the second mile with them. Love comes to heal the broken heart, to ease the troubled mind. Without a word, love bids us start to ask and seek and find. Love knocks and enters at the sound of welcome from within. Love sings and dances all around and feels new life begin.
This morning is a little different for our RE program because some of our families are camping up at Lake Lopez in the annual Family RE Campout, joined by folks from the San Luis Obispo congregation this year, so I'm excited to hear how that went. I got a picture from Charla, our Director of Lifespan Religious Education this morning, with a group of turkeys that had wandered through the campsite this morning, and she said we're in good company. But that doesn't mean that those of us who are here don't love to think about things through story. And I have something I wanted to share with you. So if there's any kids here this morning with us, if you want to come forward, Janie is here to be with our kids this morning. So if there's anybody, one of our traditions is for folks to come up on the carpet here. You don't have to, but of all ages, if anybody wants to come forward. Because this morning, something appeared in my office that I haven't seen in a really long time. I heard somebody say it. What was it? The Wonder Box, because it's this box that has the word wonder written on it. And I always wonder what's inside of it when it shows up. I never know what we're going to find when we open it. So this morning, let's open this and see what we've got. Some kids at heart. You want to, these kids at heart here. Mimi, do you want to pull out, what do we have here in this wonder box? You can pull it on out. You want to wave it around a little bit? We've got some long grasses here, right? Some long, flexible grasses here. And, this reminds me of something I learned not long ago. And what I love about that hymn that we just sang is that line that I noticed, love bids us ask and seek and find. I love the idea that love wants us to ask questions, to wonder about the world around us. And this makes me wonder about something I just learned, which is that grasses can have all kinds of unexpected uses. Now, I want you to imagine that you're walking through the forest and you come across a stream, and you're wondering how you're going to get across this stream, right? It's too deep maybe to wade comfortably. Maybe it's that time of year when we have lots of water coming down from the mountains and it's too busy to be safe. And you're looking for a way to cross, and you find a bridge. Now, what are bridges usually made out of? Wood sometimes, steel, rope maybe, rocks. Bridges can also be made out of grass. You can make a very sturdy bridge out of grass. I learned this because in South America, the Incas learned how to do this. They learned how to make bridges out of grass. Now, if you came across a bridge made out of grass, what are some things you might want to know before walking across it? How strong it is, right? Doesn't inspire a lot of confidence when it comes to bridge building. What other questions might you want to know before you set foot on that bridge? Is it slippery? Well, the person who told me this story about these bridges had two really good questions about before she wanted to know, she walked across that bridge. She wanted to know, did the people who built it use it regularly today? Right? And how often and how long have they been doing this, right? Well, it turns out that for a very, very long time in South America, they've been building bridges out of grass. They've learned how to weave and to make rope out of grass that is strong enough to bear llamas and people back and forth. But what they have to do is every year, they rebuild the bridge. And it takes the entire community to do this. Some people are really good at weaving the grasses together to make strong rope. Some people are really good at lashing the grasses to either side to provide anchor points. Some people are really good at thinking through the engineering of where the knots need to go. Some people are really brave and willing to be the first ones out to test the bridge after they put it up, right? It takes everyone from the community using all of their skills and all of their knowledge to rebuild these bridges every year. And the question that occurred to me after I learned this is not just, do they work, are they safe? But I started wondering, who was the first group of people who decided to try this? How long had they been existing on one side of that ravine? Maybe going the long way around for days or even weeks to get to the other side. Maybe only being able to cross seasonally because when the floods came, it was too much. Who are the first group of people who said, what have we got that we could use to cross this chasm safely and together? I wonder what inspired those people to come up with that idea. That's my wondering this morning about bridges made of grass. Maybe you have some wonderings as well, and if so, I would love to hear them. Let us sing our kids to their religious exploration classes with Janie.
Behold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go. To nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
think so. Do we have it on? Hello, hello? Yeah, good. Thank you. Good morning. So many of you know me. I'm Justine. I introduce myself sometimes as your friendly neighborhood pagan, and I often appear to recognize our sacred days as a pagan. So I'd like to say a little something today about what being a pagan means to me, for those who may not be familiar. So in short, paganism is earth-based spirituality, honoring the goddess as mother and protector, and the natural world as sacred. There are as many ways to practice this spiritual tradition as there are those who practice it. My Irish ancestry draws me mainly to the path of Celtic paganism. And Reverend Julia mentioned that, of course, we all have the path that we took to get here. When I joined as a member in 2017, after attending for a full year before that, I said, I'm a pagan, and I'd also like to be a Unitarian. And I was met with open arms and a very warm welcome. I appreciate about our congregation and Unitarian Universalism in general, this spirit of inclusion, diversity, and upholding progressive values. We all know there's a lot of stress and division in our country right now, especially as we get closer to a very important day in November. How would it be if we all came together in community, respect, and care, holding close our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person? I know it's more difficult with some than others, but we do our best. Important to me also is that paganism upholds these ideals of peace, harmony, and inclusion. A large part of my spiritual practice is observing and honoring the 8 sacred days on the wheel of the year. These mark the changing of the seasons as the wheel turns. These days include the solstices and equinoxes, and 4 other days which are lesser known. Today is autumn equinox, also called Mabon, mid-autumn. I know on our current calendars it calls today the first day of autumn, but on the pagan wheel of the year it is mid-autumn. It's a harvest festival, a time for gratitude for what we've sown from the seeds that we planted in the spring. It's also a time to celebrate community, as we often need to work together to accomplish big things. Equinox is a time of balance between light and dark. As we move into the darker time of the year, we prepare for quiet reflection and stillness. It's also a time to imagine what we might plant in the spring, manifest for the coming year, and to remember that if we can collectively envision the world we want to create, we can make it a reality. And I'd like to share with you a reading by Karen L. Culpepper. Oh, I didn't need my glasses for that. I do for this. Fall equinox. May we assemble again in the spirit of harmony and ripeness. Let your eyes gently scan and your thoughts wander as you take in the fullness of these beautiful choices that we have nurtured from seed to bud to fruit to harvest. May we embrace the spirit of fulfillment and find comfort in our sovereignty. Take a moment to remember what you conjured, the same way we connected with folks who breathed life into our hopes. We must continue to lean into community for the sake of our collective thriving. How do we dance with balance, reconciliation, and opposition together? Together, let us have a seat at the table and take a collective cleansing breath. Through the lens of analysis and with a softer gaze, let's exchange creative imaginings and invoke the energy of change and beauty. Can you take effective action? Or if there's controversy, let it go for the sake of the best and highest good of the collective? Our webs of relationship matter so deeply at this moment. Center practices that fortify the inner alchemy and relationships that prioritize reciprocity and deep care. Blessed be.
Thanks.
Please stay seated as we sing our reflective hymn, number 73, Chant for the Seasons. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Sweet the angling sun, sweet upon the air, the smell of blue mist rising. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us. Glorious the trees, glorious the sight of rust leaves falling, falling. Summertime has turned the star wheel, autumn is upon us.
In that spirit of community and interconnection, I would like to invite Angie forward to share an invitation for connection to the wider community that we can support through our actions. Our Director of Membership and Outreach, and delighted to have her on staff here at the Unitarian Society. And if you have any questions about how to get connected here, Angie is a person who can help you out.
Good morning. It's so good to be here with all of you. As Julia mentioned, I'm the Outreach and Membership Coordinator here for the Unitarian Society. One of the ways that I approach the outreach portion of my role is to think about ways I can share about the community at the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara and the work that staff and the congregation do outside of Sunday mornings that's related to social justice and community support that are in alignment with our values. If there's also an actionable item, that's even better. So this week is National Diaper Need Awareness Week. LEAP, which is a longstanding organization in our community that stands for Learn, Engage, Advocate, and Partner, is an early child care and education provider and has the only registered diaper bank in Santa Barbara County. LEAP distributes over 5,000, that's a lot of diapers, 5,000 diapers a month to families in Santa Barbara County. So from Carpinteria up into Santa Maria, they're giving families diapers. And this is to ensure that no parent or caregiver who may be struggling at this time has to decide between essential needs for their family. So they're not having to decide whether to buy food or to buy diapers, or to put gas in the car or to buy diapers. LEAP is there to help them. I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that I joyfully serve on the board of directors for LEAP, along with USSB member Chuck Flax. He's the board president for LEAP. So starting today, some of you may already have seen this very large plastic bin outside the front office. We'll be collecting diapers and wipes for LEAP until 12 o'clock today. If you would like to drop something off during the week, the box will be outside Monday through Thursday from 9 to 4, and then again on Sunday, September 29th, before and after the service. If you're unable to donate, please maybe just share with your friends and networks that we're collecting diapers, or share the social media post about the diaper collection. And then you could also learn more about LEAP at their website, which is leapcentralcoast.org. So thank you so much for caring and helping our littlest community members so they can stay dry and comfortable and thrive. Thank you.
I would like to invite us now into a time of reflection, meditation, and prayer. In a world that seems full of sharp edges, We come here on Sunday mornings to cultivate compassion, to cultivate that largeness of spirit that this world needs so desperately. So let us take a moment to enter into a meditation on compassion this morning. Starting with yourselves. Settle yourself right where you are. Get in touch with your breathing again. Find a posture that feels supported and comfortable. Close your eyes if you like, or soften your gaze. Hold your hands open on your lap, or however is most at ease. And begin by extending compassion to yourself, letting that warmth of your heart extend to your very own being, all of the things that you are good at, all of the places you are struggling. Touch those places gently with compassion and care for yourself. Breathe for just a few moments in that space. Now enlarge in that field of compassion to include the people nearest in proximity to you in this very moment, wherever you are. Just imagine when you breathe in, it's like a glowing bubble just extends out from where you are, that field of compassion, including those near you, softening your presence, wishing them health and wholeness. Breathe for just a few moments in that expanded space. In your next breath, allow that to grow even larger, to encompass this whole community in which we live, all of the struggles, all of the joys, all of the complexities, the disagreements, the agreements, the hopes and the fears. Hold all of it in compassionate regard, letting go of a need to fix or judge just for this moment. Letting that large sphere of compassion that we are now holding together, no longer relying on any one of you to maintain, but the collective compassion of this community extending out beyond these walls. And with one more breath, together, breathe in and let that compassion extend out as far as you can imagine until maybe the edges even dissolve. The horizon expands beyond what you can see, knowing that the compassionate strength that upholds this community and communities like it all over the world join together, softening and becoming one in our hope for a world where all beings thrive and live in peace and care. Take one more breath in that compassionate space. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen.
Each week, we give away 25% of our Sunday offering to a special project or organization that is living our values in the world. This month, our outreach offering is the League of Women Voters of Santa Barbara. If you'd like to make your donation directly to the League of Women Voters, you can write your check to LWVSB, and we will forward it to them. Please join me now in saying the affirmation of gratitude and giving. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those who shared their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Thank you, choir, for that beautiful music. So some of you probably know this already. It's easy to hear the connection, but the root word of sabbatical comes from the same Greek root word as Sabbath, which means, of course, rest. And it's the same as the Hebrew word Shabbat, right? So those are all connected etymologically. And there's also, aside from the Sabbath that we know, kind of the 1 out of every 7 days, day of rest idea, there's also embedded in the biblical text this idea of every 7 years letting the land lie fallow, a whole year of Sabbath for the land itself, in which there's no plowing or pruning or planting. A sabbatical is at its essence an extended Sabbath, a time of refraining from customary and usual work, of seeing what grows when the land is allowed to lie fallow, of letting the soil of the soul take a break from the tilling and turning and replenish itself for a bit so that it can be productive for many generations to come. It's a way of preparing for the future rather than just dealing with the crises of the past. It's a time of rest, which it turns out is really hard to do in our culture. And it is slightly ironic then that the most common question I got when I was people were asking me about my sabbatical, whether in this congregation or in my friends and family circle in the wider world, the most often asked question is, what are you gonna do? Or as it came to an end, what did you do on your sabbatical? And I say this with love because I asked myself that question relentlessly for a while. What am I doing with my sabbatical? Am I making the most of it? This is a huge gift I've been given. Am I working hard enough at resting? The moment I turned on that away message on my email 4 months ago, this countdown timer started in my head. I could feel it every day like those tearaway calendars we used to have, right? Am I doing enough to make the most out of this time of rest? So I talked with colleagues and I learned this was not unusual. And it took, honestly, about 2 months for me to deactivate that timer. And one day, about halfway through, I realized that several days had gone by without me asking myself that question of whether I was doing enough. And at that point, I started just being enough. And the horizon suddenly felt a lot bigger. I hope you all know that you can just be enough, right where you are, right as you are. Now, upon reflection, there were quite a few things that I did do on my sabbatical. That isn't to say that being and doing can't coexist. I did read some books, not as many as I had planned, of course, but more than I usually do. I did have a chance and the space to mourn the death of my stepfather, Paul. I took an epic and wonderful road trip with my family. We camped in 3 national parks along the way. We saw bears and moose and baby moose and baby big mountain goats and hoary marmots. We swam in freezing cold lakes. Animals are great at just being. I recommend watching them if you get the chance. I got called for jury duty, but I was dismissed at the end of the week after the selection process was complete, and I didn't have to serve, unlike one of the other members of the congregation who was also in the jury pool with me. And we did some DIY home repairs, fixing some of the flood damage that had been on our to-do list since the rains in January and February. I spent time with my family, which was a great gift. And some of you especially will be very happy to hear I even did some frivolous and non-productive things. I got to play one of my favorite new video games on the family Xbox. But the most important thing was this expanded horizon. This horizon that comes into view when we pause from doing and look up from our lists and just be for a moment in the world. And a reminder that my effectiveness as a minister with you is not predicated just on the list of things that I do in any one given week, but on that quality of being. That quality of being that is, after all, at the core of why so many of us seek out spiritual community in the first place, because I doubt that many of you came through those doors the first time or joined us online for the first time thinking to yourself, you know, my to-do list is distressingly short. I better find a community to give me some things to do so I can make meaning out of my life through busyness, right? I mean, if you did come here because of that, please talk to me after services or talk to Angie because there are things that need to get done around here. But I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that what brought you here, whether that was this morning for the first time, or 40 years ago. What brought you here was that need for connection and purpose that arises out of a way of being, a way of living more fully, not just more effectively. A place that helps us remember that we are more than just the sum of our crossed off things on our to-do lists and our successes and failures. And if I, as your minister, can't access that horizon of being, then it's a lot harder to facilitate that capacity among us together, season by season, as we seek to live in ways that reflect our values. So once that horizon appeared, once I got a sense of just being, I started to think about things in a different way, started to read things in a different way, started to think about, what does leadership mean? With that sense of being rather than doing, being together rather than doing alone. Turns out I'm not the only one thinking about these kinds of things, thankfully. There were a lot of books on that stack with titles like Emergent Strategy and Leading from the Emergent Future, leadership models that focus on nurturing systems rather than providing prepackaged strategies with to-do lists, models that talk about embracing chaos and the transformation that is possible rather than just being caught in cycles of crisis response, surfacing collective wisdom rather than chasing charismatic individuals. So, alongside all of these emergent strategy books that I had on my list, I also had a very slim volume of a new translation of the Tao Te Ching by Ursula Le Guin. Ursula Le Guin is one of my favorite authors. I don't know how many of you have read her, but she is amazing. I highly commend her to you. She is a master at ethical world building and science fiction writing, if you're into that. So in her opening paragraph, Ursula Le Guin introduces the Tao Te Ching like this. And I was intrigued by this because one of the emergent strategy books I read had quoted the Tao Te Ching in it. So I picked up the other book that was next to it, and she introduces the Tao Te Ching like this. The Tao Te Ching was probably written about 2,500 years ago, perhaps by a man called Lao Tzu, who may have lived at about the same time as Confucius. Nothing about it is certain except that it's Chinese and very old and speaks to people everywhere as if it had been written yesterday. It turns out that we've been thinking about emergent strategy for a very, very long time. It turns out that maybe some of this is embedded in what it means to be human, no matter what age we live in. It's a book that's both prose and poetry. It's written to advise people, particularly people with some amount of social capital, how to live their lives in balance with the way of the world. The Tao means, after all, the way. And so here is the verse 17, that was quoted in the Emergent Strategy book with the Ursula Le Guin translation. True leaders are hardly known to their followers. Next after them are the leaders that people know and admire. After them, those they fear. After them, those they despise. To give no trust is to get no trust. When the work's done right, with no fuss or boasting, ordinary people say, "Oh, we did it." And it was that last part of the verse that struck me. Various translations phrase it in various ways, and I always like to try to find multiple translations when I'm reading something that isn't written in English originally. But most of the time, it means something along the lines of this: that when a talented leader works with people to accomplish something, it feels to everyone as if the success was natural and organic, arising from their own effort, rather than being told what to do and how to do it. Sounds like emergent strategy to me. There is something so deeply satisfying when ancient wisdom and modern systems theory align on your reading stack. And as we head into this fall, particularly as we look at the vision and mission of this community together, and we think about our plans for the physical future of this campus and how it expresses that vision and mission in the world. You'll be hearing more about systems leadership, perhaps, from me, some of the new and ancient ways we might organize ourselves to do this work. And to be clear, when I talk about leadership, I'm not just thinking of myself or the board or the people who stand up here on Sunday morning, but I'm thinking about the way we, as the Unitarian Society, are leaders in the wider community. And that means, whether this frightens you or not, that each and every one of you are a leader by virtue of being here together. Emergent systems leadership is about getting beyond just fixing what is broken or chasing the next accomplishment. It's about listening for the way that will carry us into this future that we long for, even if we don't know exactly what that future will hold. Which brings me to the water heater. Now, those of you who read your Friday email know that the title of this sermon was Why a Minister is Like a Tankless Water Heater. It's right there on the cover of your order of service, and I haven't talked about water heaters once, and I'm almost at the end here. Well, the week before my sabbatical was over, the last week of my sabbatical, I awoke on Saturday morning to the ominous sound of what sounded like a little stream flowing where no little stream should be. So we turned off the water main, and the sound trickled to a stop, and we called the plumber. For some reason, it's always Saturday morning when you have to call the plumber. So he came out on the holiday weekend, and he cheerfully chatted as he traced down the root of our problem, which was a hole that had rusted through the bottom of our big old water heater, and so it was endlessly filling and draining and trickling right underneath the house. He could come back and install a new one, but he was on another job until the end of the week and couldn't come back until Friday. So in the meantime, he said, pick out the water heater we wanted, and he would help us order it. And meanwhile, we would be washing our dishes in cold water and taking a shower out back. So over the course of the next week, I proceeded to learn a lot more about water heaters than I ever thought I would know. Because it turns out it's not just the water heater itself that you need to know about. Water heaters don't exist in isolation. There's a metaphor there. Water heaters are connected to larger systems, and you have to learn about electrical load and the gauge of the gas as it flows into your house. And you have to answer questions about how many gallons of water do you use a week, and how much do you want to use? And I don't know these off the top of my head. So I decided to do some research. And it turns out that there are options. And it turns out there's values conversations when it comes to things like water heaters. Like, can we be more energy efficient? Can we find ways to have a lighter impact on the earth? So I learned about heat pumps and solar options and tankless and electric versus gas. And did you know there's federal and local rebates on water heaters right now? And you can run simulations on websites where you can plug in all the numbers. And I went down the water heater rabbit hole, and it became my full-time job for a week. And because I was at the end of my sabbatical, and I was already in this big horizon space of reflecting on the interconnection of all things, the way life moves and flows through us like water. We just celebrated our water ceremony last Sunday, after all. The way we're embedded in systems that we take for granted until they break or start leaking, and how at the moment we have a choice. So often, because of all of the pressures of life, we just try to put things back the way they were as soon as possible and get on with it. But in those moments, we do have choice. We do have agency, and sometimes we have to slow down and be willing to endure some discomfort for a little while so that we can understand the systems in which we live and make choices that create the kind of future we want to live in, build the house we want to inhabit for a long time in a way that reflects our values. And if I hadn't had that time to just be, I would not have been as prepared to do when it was necessary to do. I might have just put things back the way they were and repeated what I had always known. But instead, now I have a new tankless water heater that is more energy efficient and takes up less space and costs us less money to use, and I get a tax rebate from it. But the plumber said, just be sure to do your regular maintenance. With proper maintenance, this can last twice as long as your old water heater, but you have to flush the system and descale it once a year, or deposits will build up and parts will start to fail as the stress on the system increases. Aha, I thought, another metaphor. That's why a minister is like a tankless water heater. With proper maintenance and taking time to flush our system and descale every now and then, with proper maintenance, we can last 15 or even 20 years. So for those of you who are wondering and counting in your head now, I am in my 9th year as your lead minister with this congregation, 13 years in total. Thank you for giving me the time to descale, to flush the system from some of the traumatic events of our recent shared history. I am ready to turn with you toward imagining that emergent future together. And when it's all done, we'll turn to each other as ordinary people and say, oh, we did it. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. So we are going to close with a song that has 5 verses, and we're going to sing all 5 verses. So don't forget to breathe, and the choir is going to come help us. But I wanted to introduce this song. It's called Wake Now My Senses. This is a song that is often sung at installations, ordinations, and other celebrations of ministry. But I wanted to sing it with you this morning because it is a way of celebrating our ministry here together and what we can do and be, most importantly, when we do it together. So let's sing Wake Now Our Senses. Please rise in body and spirit as the choir joins us.
And hear the earth call, feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow, giving, receiving as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to the new. Join with each pilgrim who quests for the true. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limited praise the sublime. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Wake now, my conscience, with justice thy guide. Join with all people whose rights are denied. Take not for granted a privileged place. God's love embraces the whole human race. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with rain.
right where you are. And if you want to reach out and hold hands with someone next to you, you can, or you can put your hands over your heart if you'd prefer, or just hold them open wherever you are. Get connected to that sense of being part of something larger than any one of us. And as we go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. As we extinguish our chalice, let us call out a blessing.
Call out a blessing, call out a blessing, call out a blessing, call